We've got a lot of work to do in this episode, but if you're not excited, I don't know what to tell you, because I am. New wheels, lowered, big fatty, poppin' brake rotors that are two-piece, chef's kiss. You'll be amazed at how much these brake rotors transform this car. This look, we're done. We're done. We're done. We are gonna get rid of these ugly powder-coated black factory rotors. Absolutely ruined them in my opinion. Shame on the two owners ago. They would look good on a black car and that's about it. I think they really would, but I feel like it took this car from looking like it was worth $35,000 to $22,000 just by the wheels. So how are we gonna fix that and add some spice in the process? 034 Motorsport ZTF-LP01 wheels and a unique color I'll show you. Dynamic plus lowering springs in this box, and in these two heavy boxes we have some really cool looking Major Flex upgraded two-piece brake rotors. The front ones are heavy. If you're wondering how tall all these boxes are, I'm 6'1". Let's start from top to bottom. Let's open up the springs, see what we're working with. You'll see a lot of places to order your parts from, but if you enjoy this content, the best way to support the channel at no additional cost to you is just purchasing your parts from Karma Speed. We work with all these people that make these awesome parts. They ship it just as they would if you ordered direct from them, except they let us earn a little bit alongside of them as like a wholesale account. They ship it straight from them, it gets to you quick. All the warranties and every other detail, it's the same with the manufacturer. So 034, they're just regular car dudes making cool parts. That's why we love them. These have a nice gray color to them. Let's get you up close here. They have some 034 Motorsport branding on them. Nice gray color. This looks really good. Sometimes you have blues and things like that. So that looks like a rear, if I had to guess. Looks like the front. We'll cover the basis, but a lot of the details, extended details, are going to be on the Karma Speed channel, which I'll reference at the end, so don't worry. But this is what the front, I believe, looks like. Correct me if I'm wrong later in the video. But these should drop the car 0.9 inches, front and rear. So the front will be a little lower to have like a nice, not reverse rake, but like a forward rake. So that's what you want. Who makes these? 034 is Audi enthusiasts, independent thinkers, independent doers that make awesome parts, and they took their car to the track, figured out what they liked and didn't like, made springs, did testing, figure out which is the best of both worlds, and this is it. The goal is to make a spring setup that works well with the stock dampers, that's smooth, can take advantage of how the suspension can get stiffer or softer with the active dampening with different setups, like a car like this that has technology to do that. And what are we overall looking for? Just a more planted car with these springs than before. It's going to handle well in corners. It's going to be comfortable on the road still. Everything was kept in mind and made in the USA for these springs with all those things in mind. Let's put these away and look at the brake rotors next. I can't wait to see what these look like. Why do you need these brake rotors, and why would you spend your hard-earned money on them besides the looks? Wait. These should last longer as well. You'll find a document inside the box that talks about general bed-in procedure. We'll talk about that later in the episode. A box inside a box. These are the fronts. Let's go ahead and open these. Rear. Let's take a look. Look at the back. Oh, talk to me in the comments. Tell me that these are not one of the sickest upgrades. 034 just outdid themselves with this. And the fact that they have this for a lot of models, like in person, this thing is gorgeous. Like all the bolts, the machining, the 034 logo, like on the car, it's just bright and poppy. Two-piece replacement for the rotors. So if you've never heard of a two-piece rotor, you can see these bolts. You take off like the hub of it, the center of it, and you can replace just the rotor on the outside and you keep the centerpiece. Just a gorgeous piece. So that's the rear. For the fun part, the big one, big dog, the front. Boom. Wait, oh, I'm an idiot. That was the front. I'm sorry, that's the front. This is the rear. Big guy still. And the part you've probably been waiting for, wheels. There's something unique about wheels from 034 that I don't see very often, and that is the specs. So if we look at the box, you can go 18 or 19. I went 19. I didn't want to get new tires. 19 by 9.3, 5 112. Lug pattern. We got bronze in here. You might be asking yourself, why would you do the width 9.3? Well, these are actually spec'd for this car perfectly. This is in partnership with Titan 7, I believe. 034 did to have these made. So these are 034 branded wheels, and they worked with Titan 7 to give them the specs for something like this S4 to fit perfectly. The recommended tire size, I'll throw it on the screen, is a little different from the tires I have, so the fitment could be a little bit better, which the tires I have are, Justin, throw it on screen comparison, please, 245, 35, 19. So the fitment is going to be a little bit less ideal than it could be, but it'll still look good. All right, we gotta get a look at this face together. If you're looking for a performance-based wheel that looks good, perfectly spec to your car, made by 034, reduces the weight, just like those brake rotors did. You get to see a little before me. The bronze is a little darker than I expected, which I think will look very good with the blue. Check this out. That doesn't weigh much for a 19. Look for your hub-centric rings in the box. So this looks like a dark brown slash bronze. You can see the change in the flake. Looks beautiful. This is a good looking wheel in person. You got the flow formed here. You got the 034 Motorsport here. The wheel model right there. Check out the bead. Where the bead sits, look at that. It's like knurled, I think it's called knurled. Correct me if I'm wrong. For that extra grip, you've got the reduction of weight by cutting out as much in here as possible without getting rid of any structure. Any material that they can get rid of here, they do to save weight, but keep it structurally sound. Let's get a little peek. What do we think? We'll have to see. Let's take a look at our nice hub-centric ring. This isn't some plastic. Machined, looks like a CNC type cut. I don't know what you call it. Ow, not plastic. It's time to wrench. Step 1, get the car on the lift. This car still sleeps in here every night because I don't have all the glass in. But I am very close to the next episode because we're almost done getting it running. I'm just fighting some boost creep issues and such. But I've been doing my first pulls in it. If you saw on Instagram, follow me there if you're missing out. It's a late night, folks. It's a late night. Late night grind. These things, I'll leave a link in the description, are unreal. This is also one of the easiest cars to put on the lift I've ever had. Step 2, pull the wheels off, load everything in the truck, take it to Tires to Go. The boys, if you're in the Phoenix area, make sure you hit them up. Editor Justin, if you would throw their phone number on screen, please. Fun fact, the owner is my neighbor, walking distance. Here we are again, we're using this again. Oh. 17 mil linked in the description, non-marring. Socket, major heat. These things got some life left in them, so I'm using them. We ain't tire sponsored yet, fam. Maybe one day. 2 down, 2 to go. I owe a quick shout out to my co-leader Adam. We lead a small group of high school freshman boys at our church for biblical community, which I'm about. I have my own. We have the high school lead. That's a new thing for me. It's been fun. It's super fulfilling. I just had a great high school experience and I want to pass that on and just be of service to any little homie that needs a homie. But Adam, my co-leader, got me this for my birthday. This little strut right here keeps the tailgate from falling down. Adam, thank you. Shameless plug. If you want that for your Silverado, I'll leave it linked in the description too. There's something that makes me nervous for tomorrow. It's the fact that I've never worked on a suspension setup like this with these, like, what are these? Control arms up top? Yeah, there's just some funky stuff going on here for a Subaru boy. Hey, we'll figure it out. We'll be alright. We'll be alright. There is not very many good videos on these cars suspension-wise. There's not even a single video on this front sway bar. We're gonna get it done though one day. Kind of an interesting wheel, huh?
It's actually a pretty badass wheel.
Hey, someone on the Super video commented recently, it made me laugh, I thought of you. Someone saw the grease right here, and they're like, they scratched the wheel. Just big old dashes on it. Oh, like, that's funny. Todd would crack up if he saw this.
Oh yeah, dude.
Because from a distance, it literally looked like silver, you know, so it looks like a scratch, yeah.
Dude, sometimes, like, we'll mount a wheel and I'll look at it like, and then you wipe it out, go.
Yeah. How'd they balance?
Really well. And their machining, like, look at it. Really good.
Yeah, nice and tight.
That's nice and tight, and it's like center, it looks good.
Thanks, boss.
Yeah, dude. Send me a picture.
Heading into the lowering spring install on this car, I was a little bit apprehensive because this is known as a multi-link system, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is a 5-link. And after doing some research, let's take a look at the front. As I'm monkeying around, you'll see that we have 2 links on the top, some on the bottom. It's a little bit intimidating compared to some, but after doing some research, when you have a multi-link setup like this, it really locks that wheel down and only lets vertical movement happen. And when you have independent suspension front and rear, each wheel can travel on its own, extremely locked down. It's not flexing in as much, it's not flexing out as much, it's not flexing forward, rocking caster back and forth. That multi-link setup holds it so it can really only go up and down. That's the basic understanding that I'm learning as I get more and more into the Audi Volkswagen platform, specifically the Audi. Drop some comments and some knowledge down below, please, if you're super into these. But that's what gives Audi that feel and the nice suspension and the driving experience. But let's do a little bit of wrenching. Let's start with the front, and then the back we can move through quickly. If you want an exact detail by detail, step by step install on the lowering spring process, we'll have a video on the Karma Speed channel that's not missing a beat. The whole entire process, it will be there for you. But I want to respect the time of those who don't have an S4, don't need to know, but want to see what they can learn from this car. So just the first thing that came to mind is the 2 links on the top, the bolt comes out. You can use a screwdriver to pry the outer one open a little bit, and both of those arms will pop out. Then the whole spindle will drop from the top. The fork on the bottom that is connected to the strut, that can come out. That will help lower it a little bit. You obviously have the bolts on the top as well, same situation. We need to disconnect one of the bolts for the sway bar end link, and then from there, for the most part, we can slide all of that out, and it wasn't too bad. If you're going to be doing this on the ground with the car on jack stands, you're going to need a floor jack to be able to lift the suspension up and down to help support and align everything. Medium-sized pry bar as well to monkey around the whole thing to get it this huge multi-link system back in place. And it's a lot less intimidating when you get your hands on it. You're like, oh, this isn't so bad. So out of the gate, the first wheel was a little bit rough in the front, but the second one went really, really smooth, and the multi-link isn't so bad. I did make one mistake at the very end on the front. I prematurely put some pressure with the power ratchet on that top pinch bolt for the 2 links on top, and I had to go to Audi, get a new bolt. So when you have that set up, make sure you push the spindle and the whole hub assembly and everything in the wheel and all that up, then put the 2 links in, slide that bolt all the way through, and then let it catch the threads and push it through. Don't try and use the threads to pull it the whole way through like I did. That's how I smoked one of those bolts, and I didn't really understand, and I didn't look closely. It was a very negligent thing I did, if that's the right word, to prematurely spin it with power. I should have known to have just take the time, lift the whole hub up, push the bolt all the way through, and then let it catch those threads and tighten that pinch bolt so it'll hold those links on top. With a little bit of patience, not bad. Heading to the rear, we can do this 2 ways. Sean from 034 told me that for him, it was easiest to drop all 4 subframe bolts and leave them threaded in but just loose, and the whole thing will lower and you can pull the springs out, put the new springs in, you're done. I did it the way where I took the control arm out from up here and dropped it and pulled it down and pulled those springs in and out. So you'll see that step by step on the CarmaSpeed channel, but you could go to all 4 points of the subframe, lower it a little bit, and then get enough room, because you're just lowering the whole rear suspension to get where the top of the spring connects to the chassis. You're gonna lower everything with it, and it will create distance between the body and the chassis, and then the spring will be here, and then you can use this gap here to then pull that spring out. I didn't want to do that because, as good of an idea as that is, I've already had good luck doing one side without Sean telling me that. He told me that ironically after me doing one side, and I was like, this wasn't that bad. So I went with that method, but I could see how if you were doing this on jack stands, it would actually be easier to drop the rear subframe on jack stands. Don't take my word for that, because I don't know. Something to keep in mind, I learned, I had to talk to Sean about, I'd never seen, was where the top of the spring connects to the body. That is a piece of rubber foam insulator piece that appeared to have taken the shape of the previous spring, and you have to line up the bottom one on that insulator piece where it sits on the lower control arm. It has to line up. Now the top one, when you get the bottom lined up, the new spring doesn't line up on the top against the body of the car. I was like, what? This isn't good. Found out that foam piece just takes shape to whatever spring it sits on. So once you line up the bottom one, push it all back together, the top, as long as it's centered, you'll be all right. You don't need to worry about anything else from there. I can confirm after driving it that there's no noises. The car drives like stock in regards to noises and things like that. Everything's super plush still, and I didn't lose any I didn't get any new rattles or anything like that. And normally that happens after doing a suspension install, but I've finally done it long enough to where I actually nailed it on this car, and there's no noises. I haven't had to go and check anything, lift it up and all that, which I did on many cars in the past. So if you hear some noises, you're a little knocking, concerned, look for things that are loose, maybe not put in correct, maybe the spring is slightly rotated wrong and it's creating a gap when you hit certain bumps. There's so many things that could go into it. So move slow when you go through the install process, and it will be a good time. My takeaways from this install, not bad. Multi-link is a little bit more of a pain to get the strut in and out, but it's not terrible. I can appreciate it because if you think about it, you have the links on the top, the bottom, the hub and everything. You wonder, why is this car so smooth? Why is it so responsive? Why does it handle the way it does? That multi-link only letting it do vertical movement because it's got so many links to hold it in place from all the pressures of bumps pushing it this way, forward, back, up, down, to the side, in. It has so much support from all those links that's what makes up the driving experience to feel different with you behind the wheel. Am I convincing myself that I like Audis more now because of the decisions that they make? Now it's time for the last piece of the puzzle that needs wrenching, and it's the brake rotors. Looks like this one might be missing the bolt that holds it on. There we go. Pull the caliper off, put a hook through it, hook it onto one of the arms, PB blaster, send some vibration through it. This is the raw uncut stuff. Well, that's how you do it, folks. Did not want that to happen. Oh, so sick. Stay there. Slide that on. Wish I had that little bolt. Wonder where that went. This thing's smarter, not harder. Woo! That's an arm workout. Take some brake cleaner. These are all lined up. This side's done. I'm gonna go to the other, then let's move on to the front. Slide it off. Get the hanger set up. That works. Beautiful. Okay. There we go. Got my arrow checked. It's moving forward. Looking for where that torch bolt goes. It's towards the bottom. Bolt is so useful. You saw me struggle on the back because I didn't have it. Just lines everything up, holds the rotor in place. Beautiful. I'm gonna go ahead and snug that up while I'm here. Gotta leave it take offable for the next guy. Power ratchet, snug these up. Snug these up like your life depends on it, because it does. Woo, wheel time. So before I drive, I just want to make sure pinch bolt tight here. Both of those ball joints look good. Wires are plugged in, harness. I've got the sway bar end link tight. The lower part of the fork tight. Spring and everything looks good. Front's good. Rotor, brake calipers tight. Spring and everything looks good in the back. Go to the other side. We're good to go. I need black bolts, fam. Stay tuned. Man, I can't wait to see this on the ground. Anything under the car? Nope. Alright, let's see if it's any lower. Alright, she needs to settle. How are we feeling about the wheels? These wheels are looking a little more premium than I expected. Maybe is it the brake rotors combined? Ah, hold down the unlock. Get our brake pedal back. Oh, this prestige diffuser ruins it. I have all the carbon scheduled for later on, but I don't know if I can take it. I don't know if I can take it. We might have to install this that early. Carve, settle. I like it better than the other wheels. I can already see how much lower it looks. If I had a little bit bigger tires like they call for, it would be even better fitment. Dang, it looks good from back here. Let you look a little bit closer here. Not bad. Let's get a side profile. For a performance look, it's a lot more casual in person than I expected. I really do like this. The color is really mature. I think this combo is pretty cool. I think this car would pull off the silver probably even better. Why is that so like that? There we go. You can see the fitment here. That is really nice. If we go look at the front, looks great. Let's look from the top down. Take it for a spin. I want to put it out there right away. If you put it in comfort mode, everything's normal in drive. Does it still float on the road like the S4 you bought from factory? Absolutely. Is it the exact same? And should you expect a change? No, it's not the exact same anymore, and you should expect a change. For this driving section, I was trying to make this super fun for us, but my 360 camera mount broke. I gotta find a better one to strap onto the back of the car, so I'm gonna go to a location, get some B-roll of the car editor Justin can toss on while we're driving and talking, and doing our first initial impressions of the lowering springs. Now I'm talking to you days, almost a week later, from the standpoint of 150 to 250 miles about. I don't check because the mileage isn't always up, so I don't pay too close attention to the miles on this car, but it's been around that phase and I have a strong opinion on it. I know a lot of you don't want to give up the luxury feel, the comfort, the cloud feel of the suspension. You don't want to give up going from dynamic to comfort, and I must say, when we're in dynamic, which I am right now in sport mode, traction off, just cruising around, overall you don't feel much different. But the first thing that I noticed right out of the gate that I feel strongly about is that once you get up and moving, and we're not going to go to the canyon in this video, we're going to save that for a little bit later, but when you twist the wheel left to right like you're warming up your tires on a NASCAR race, the car feels different right out of the gate. The lower center of gravity, you can feel that, and it's really responsive and enjoyable, and the car just digs in. So that's the first thing I noticed. I was like, okay, yeah, this is a real change. Now, the only major con that I think that you could say with something as simple as springs and come to the conclusion of is that when you have the big stainless steel plates that cover, you know, like sewage systems, water drains that are in the road that you hit, the round ones, sometimes the ones that are a little deeper in the road than normal, they're kind of jarring. And it doesn't matter what suspension you have, it's a little bit like it buckles the suspension a little bit because it kind of just G's out that corner. It's like not expected. When you're hitting it with lowering springs, it's always going to be a little bit more jarring. And so to those who have never modified their car or lowered it and you hit those bumps and you're like, should it sound a little bit rougher than normal? Absolutely. And that's the only really major thing I can notice with these springs that's worth even noting. Everything else is just a little bit more of a responsive version of the car as it is, and that's the goal. If you want to talk deeper and deeper into it, nerd out, I would like to go out to the canyons, but as far as daily driving with the lowering springs, the responsiveness is nice, the car's lower center of gravity, it feels like the car grips better. But let's talk about the brake rotors next. So when you start to drive with them, you'll notice it feels like you're kind of grinding teeth. Like you do your teeth like that, it's kind of just grinding teeth because those pads are wearing those rotors down and getting that initial coating off and such like that. And they just seem a little bit rough, but man, do they grab. And I would only expect them to stay a lot cooler when we do go out in the hills and we're using our brakes properly, which I want to touch on that I've learned from rally driving school. I want to take you out to the canyon soon in this car and show you what I'm learning, because cars like this, even though they have big brakes, they're very, very easy to overheat if you drive completely wrong, which I used to in the past. And literally in videos, I posted POV videos, I would watch and be like, why am I braking like that? I was so concerned why my brakes are overheating. Like, no crap, they were overheating because you didn't know how to drive, you moron. So I can't wait to show you that, and I expect these to hold up even better. But as far as like how they grab, if you think of a stock rotor kind of just grabbing and having a very linear level of grip with the brakes, I feel like the best way I could describe my thoughts here, and this is gonna sound exaggerated, and I don't want it to be exaggerated, it feels like the initial 20% of brake pressure that goes into those rotors really starts to grab, and then it's very linear from then on, and you just expect it to hold really strong, and it's just a nice little added level of confidence that you can take with you with the car. So other than that, they look cool. I like that initial grab, so between the steering being more responsive and the brakes being a little bit grippier in the initial pressing of them, now at the 1 to 2% brake pressure, I feel like they're definitely a little bit less grippy, but then as soon as you press more into that, it's like, whoa, it's really grabbing. So the car is responsive in a different way that's much more sporty and what you're looking for when you're modifying it. So, you know, is it gonna be something where you hop and you're like, oh, Cam said this, and this, and I put the brake rotors on and oh my gosh, it's like, no, like this is all minor changes. And anyone else who wants to say, oh, it's this big deal, spend all this money, the brakes are totally different, you can tell with how I'm talking that those people just drive me crazy. Pulling up on this GT that was kind of rowdy to see what he's thinking. Not gonna make eye contact. I'm in the part of town where it makes me nervous with cops. Man, it's way hotter today and the car does not like it. Turbo car problems. It's getting hot here in Phoenix. This car is great. You just go from so comfortable to really wanting to get after it. The brake rotors too, by the nature of the shape and the materials and everything used, and the pads would change this too, but if you have a stock car like I do, you'll notice a little bit different feedback in the brake pedal. The vibration's slightly different between the springs and the rotors. You get a little bit different of a feel. And it's minor, so I enjoy it. It's in the right direction of where we want to go. We have more work to do, we have more driving to do, we have more hardcore testing to do, but overall, we're headed in the right direction. In the aesthetics department of how the car looks, what you can expect is, does it in person look lower? This is a conservative lowering spring. This isn't the max you can do. This is going to maintain performance, the overall stance of the car, make it that much a little bit better. It's just a mid-range lowering spring that's focused on performance more so than just dumping the car as low as possible. Everything about this car and this project that I'm doing is taking the S4 and making it the same thing it was and is, and just inches better, which is what the 034 catalog is good for. Could it be lower and would it look cooler to me? Absolutely. Does it need to do that? No. Could you make up for that with some little bit bigger tires and the sidewall a little bit bigger? Yes. Am I gonna do that? No. I'm just gonna run the tires I have on it. There's no reason to spend that money. These tires are plenty good. But the car, does it look lower? Does it feel lower? It feels slightly lower. It's not as dramatic as some when you're driving it, but it does feel lower. Does it look lower? Yes, but not as much as others, but just enough to where you notice it and you're like, wow, this looks really, really good. And there's a definite difference. And it's enough to where the average consumer would not notice in person, but your car guy would be like, this thing's lowered, I'm pretty sure, right? You'd say, yeah. Where there's some lowering springs, you're like, it's very obvious that this thing is on springs or coilovers. And this rides that fine line of like, is it not? Why does this, my whole goal is like, why does this S4 look so much better than a regular S4? And the thought kind of starts and stops there. That's my goal with this project. With the wheels we're gonna do down the road, these wheels even look a little bit OEM plus-ish vibe. We're getting close already. So between the height being slightly lower, barely, not even an inch, keeping the factory color, adding some carbon around that could be like a carbon package situation. These springs kind of line up with that vision, that thing I'm talking about, that I'm gonna enjoy about this car. I just went over that big hump in the road that rattles my truck to death. It's like this stone rock. With this car in comfort mode, regular drive mode, it floated over it still, even with these springs. I brought the car to where I shot the final B-roll shots of the RS3 project as a little RIP RS3. Last I knew, we sold it to a guy in California, and then I saw, I think it was Devin who runs Carver Speed with me. Yeah, it was him. He sent me a Facebook Marketplace listing of it near him in North Carolina on Facebook for sale with the same wheels, carbon, the whole nine. The car was like untouched, it just had more miles on it. So it's somewhere on the East Coast. See the spring settled quite a bit. It's looking nice from this angle. This is a strong look. I like it. There's things that could be better about it, so we're gonna go to my laptop. We're gonna go over some photos that Sean sent me from a bunch of other cars to inspire you. If you have an S4, you wanna get one, or you wanna see what could it look like, and could these wheels look even better? What does it look like with different color schemes? But I just wanna give you one last look before we head and look at some other people's cars together in this episode. The brakes look phenomenal. I did the bronze just because I feel like a lot of people like bronze right now, and it's something to switch it up, and a lot of gray, white, black cars out there. The blue, it's not a bad color. It's kind of a grayish bronze. Like right now it looks more gray than bronze, but in pure broad daylight, you know, you can see when the exposure fixes right there, it gets a little bronzy. But man, when these rotors get a little bit of wear on them, it looks so sweet. Car looks so much better than the other wheels. So this wheel, the perfect fitment right here. B9 S4 A4 265 35 19. So let's take a look. This is a bunch of files that Sean from 034 sent me. Let's just take a look at this car real quick together. Nice newer gen on the silver. That red interior looks really nice. So that gives you an idea of the look of this car. Pretty sweet. Take a look at it on the track. Here it is on the black version. Here's the bronze. A company vehicle. Here's the gray wheels. These are 265 35 19s. It's a really nice look as far as tire size. So if you do buy tires, that is the move. That's the size right there. Look at that. Man, whoever shot these photos, these look crazy crisp. All the helpful links are in the description for you, whether it's Amazon or karmaspeed.com. Help support the channel to keep making content like this, and it's the best way to support at no additional cost to things you're already gonna buy. If you wanna see more on one of the products we touched on, I'm gonna have a detailed video here on the Karma Speed channel, and on that channel, there'll be more detailed videos on every product individually to go over everything you need before you spend your hard-earned money. That'll be here, and over here we'll have the next S4 episode if you're watching all of them back to back.